Hey guys, Hannylicious here. I wanted to address something that I see a lot of entry-level programmers as well as experienced programmers doing, and that is spending a lot of time writing print statement after print statement after print statement in scripts and applications that they're working on. This is often considered a simple way to debug something that you don't know what's going on. You're not really sure what's happening. You're not sure if maybe your variables aren't set right. You're kind of confused. So you start printing things out. Before you know it, you have 20, 30 print statements in potentially larger applications or larger scripts that you're trying to debug. And then at the end of it all, when you finally figured out that it's you had one misspelled, or maybe you didn't use a variable and it was causing some kind of problem, at the end of it all, then you have to go in and erase all those print statements. It's really, really time consuming. It's time consuming writing all those print statements. I wanted to talk about the built-in debugger to Python. I feel like this is one of the most overlooked aspects of Python that a lot of people tend to ignore straight out of the gate. They get right into some tutorials that teach them about printing things out and printing variables and things like that, and they kind of go from there. A lot of times they begin running down that road and they come up with a little script, and then all of a sudden it blows up and they're going, well, I'm not sure. So they start printing things out the way that they know how from a tutorial, and they never think anything more of it. Before long, they've written a few scripts and they're just using print debugging because it's simple and easy and it works for them the vast majority of the time. They're willing to forget about the fact that it takes that time to write those print statements. It takes that time to go back and clean up the code after writing the print statements. They're willing to overlook all of that because those things help them make their code run properly when they expect it to run that way. Well, the built-in debugger can kind of do all of that and more right out of the gate. So with 2 lines of code, you can hop into your application as it's running. You can print out variables to make sure that they're getting assigned as you would expect. You can walk through your code line by line to make sure exactly what you think is happening is happening. It's absolutely wonderful. It's super powerful, and it's 2 lines of code. It beats print statements all day long, and it is often overlooked from the beginning, and even by, mid-level programmers. So let's just jump right into this so we can keep it short and simple, just how it is using the debugger in Python. Let's jump right in. All right. So what you see here is just a directory that I've created called debug tutorial. Straightforward. There's nothing in there. Let's list out the contents. It has one file, example.py. This is something that a beginner might have, maybe they've got a script.py or an example.py or something that they've been working through, a tutorial, if you will. Let's hop over to VS Code. Now, I'm using VS Code. I've got some plugins installed here, things like Error Lens, which I highly recommend, help you identify errors as you're writing your code, which is really, really nice. For example, let's go ahead and do something that a beginner might do. Let's set some variables to just static strings, right? So name equals John, maybe last name equals Smith, right? And let's try to create a full name, which is just a concatenation of those two. So we'll do full name equals name, last name. Now, here we see where Error Lens comes into play. I realize this isn't a video about that, but I wanted to demonstrate just how clearly it can let you know that there are errors in your code as you're typing. It's extremely nice. What I forgot was the plus sign there. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and save the file. So now we have name, last name, and a full name, which should be John Smith. Let's open up our terminal down here, and let's go ahead and just try to run this code. Let's go Python example.py. We're not going to see anything, but it ran it, and it ran without errors, which is a good thing. So let's go ahead and go back up here, and now we're going to say print the full name. Let's run this again. We see that it prints. There's no space there. Ah, darn. Well, that's simple enough. And I think most people that are probably watching this video know how to do that. So I won't bore you with those details. However, I am going to show you very quickly, like with 2 lines of code, as I said, we're going to pretend that we didn't know what was going on. Maybe is it our name? Is it last name? We're not sure. We're a beginner, remember? So we're going to, with 2 lines of code, we're just going to jump right into the middle, maybe where you might expect a print statement to be. Maybe they're going to print name or last name. Instead of that, we're going to write import pdb for Python debugger. And then we're going to simply say pdb.set_trace. And that is a method. We're going to save that. Okay. So ErrorLens is letting us know that a module level import is not at the top of the file. That's okay for this example. And in the real world, you're not going to put it at the top when you're just trying to debug some code that you're writing. You just want something quick and dirty that'll get you in there. So let's hop into our terminal here. Let's run this again and see what happens. Okay, this looks different. You know, now we're seeing this prompt like it expects us to type. It says PDB right next to it. It's got a little arrow here letting us know. So the quick and dirty of this is that this is the next line of code from where you're at. And right now it's letting you know you're in the PDB, you're in the Python debugger at this point. So now there's commands that you can run. And it's just as if you were in any terminal anywhere. So you can actually write Python right here in your terminal. It's fantastic. Let's go ahead and see, maybe we were going to print name to see if that's, you know, exactly what we might expect. Well, now you can just type it here and hit enter. We see that it's John, so we know exactly what we're getting. Let's go ahead and do last name. We see that it's Smith. Perfect. Exactly how we wanted it to be. Now we know that the next line of code is where we call the full name. So we can simply, if we want to execute that, for example, if we print full name right now, it's going to give us an error. It's not defined anywhere because that line of code has yet to run, but we want to run it. We want to see what full name looks like. So let's go ahead and type next. That then runs the line of code right here. And then it tells us that the next line of code that it will run is this right here, right? So now we know that the debugger is essentially in this space here. It's in between this line and this line. It's just kind of hanging out here. But we should be able to print full name at this point. And we see John Smith. Now we're thinking to ourselves, well, that doesn't help me. I don't really have a space in there, right? So you can actually interact with your code in such a way. You could say something like new full name equals, and then you could do something like name plus if you wanted to test it out, and you could say last name, right? And now you can actually print that variable that you just created. Boom. John Smith with the space in there. Exactly what we're looking for. Now, if we know that we've fixed our problem and we know exactly what's going on and we know what we want to do and everything, well, then that's fine. You can just exit out of here. Boom. And you're right back to your terminal exactly where you were before. But you've been able to jump in and see exactly what's going on. So you know at any given point in time what's happening with your code. You also know that with those 2 lines of code, the import PDB and the PDB set trace, you can just jump into your code and begin trying new things. And then at the end of the day, you come back in here, you delete these 2 lines of code, and you know exactly what you need to fix to get it to look exactly how you want. Then you can save it, you run your code, and it prints exactly as you would expect, or does whatever you need it to do. That's the built-in debugger. That is the functionality that it brings. And yeah, it's that simple. It sure beats print statements, especially when you're very, very deep into some code. You can print out literally any variable that's been declared before then, and you can see it all. So make sure if you are a newer developer, make sure that you add this tool to your arsenal. Use this often. And and use the debugger as much as possible. It is going to help you tremendously. It will beat print statements. You can leave your code all nicely organized and all printed exactly how it should be, nice and clean. And then you can just put those 2 lines in where you need to see what's going on to make your application work as you would expect. So that's it. That's the quick and dirty, the very simple, if you will, about the Python debugger. So as always, I make sure that you're being excellent to each other, as it says right over there. Be excellent to each other. Keep building really cool things. If you guys are interested, hit subscribe, follow, hit that notification bell. I do go live on YouTube from time to time. You can also find me streaming over on Twitch. There's no real set schedule to it, so if you want to hit me up with a follow over there so you're notified of when I'm live on Twitch as well, that's appreciated. And until next time, keep building cool things, keep being excellent to each other, and I'll see you soon.